admit.
Okay, did it work this time? Hey, Dustin. Uh-oh. Hey, Dustin.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear us, Melissa?
I can't hear you, Dustin.
You can't hear Mike, though?
I can hear you over the phone, but I can't hear you on the...
You might have your maybe your headphones aren't plugged in or something. I don't know.
Maybe it is my headphones.
Maybe
I can
maybe
hear
the
him fine.
headphones. Yeah, try plugging in the headphones.
Usually with my Zoom meetings, I've just been using my speakers have been working.
Hey, Dustin, so how you holding up?
I'm doing all right. 3 consecutive heartbreaks, not fun, but I'm pulling through.
Yeah, that's all we can do when we go through some rough patches, right?
Yeah, I did a lot of writing throughout the whole thing, but I
I
don't
saw
have any
some
real...
of it.
Yes, I did a lot of Facebook writing. Since seeing your paintings lately, very nice. I like them a lot.
Yeah, I set some up for the background.
Oh, nice. I see some of them.
I'm gonna fall out of my chair if this was a problem.
Well, let people know. Let people know I have prints. I have prints.
Absolutely.
I don't have prints of this one yet. This one is the 4th original that may be sold.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Ah.
I have my mic plugged into a USB out, a USB port.
Well, now it's kind of echoing, so maybe
that might be because she's on the phone and I'm on here as well. Let me.
I'll cut off the
that's
phone.
probably what's. I'm gonna mute
Bye,
myself.
Dustin. Oh, yeah. Now the echo's gone.
Thank you, Dustin.
Oh no, I can still hear you though. You still hear me? Yeah, even though you're muted. Oh, I'm on the phone with her and on the
I'll bye now.
It's echoing on the phone.
Let's see. Thank you, Dustin.
You're welcome. Sorry.
He's a magician, isn't he?
Yeah, I can still hear him though. Oh.
I hung up on him. There.
Now I can't hear you.
Now he's gone.
I'm still on the Zoom. Okay. Let me know if you need any help. I'll go ahead and exit, and then you guys have a good interview.
Okay, we will. Thank you, Dustin.
All right. Have a good interview.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dustin.
Woo. Well, that was fun.
It's a whole new world, a virtual world now.
Yeah, it is, and I'm not very good at it, but I'm learning.
It's a high learning curve for all of us. I had to do a whole I think 2 semesters. Now I can't remember, but 2 semesters on video teaching right here from this chair. And none of the students ever turned their videos on, so I never knew what they looked like. So I would sit here and talk to the computer all day long.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had to learn a lot of tricks, really fast.
Right.
It's a whole new world thanks to COVID,
Yeah, it is. It's changed everything. Anyway, well, it's nice to finally meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Anyway, I don't think anybody's watching except maybe Dustin. And, so I'm Melissa Chappelle, and today we have with us Mike Matthews, And
Oh,
you sent me a wonderful biography. And to introduce us, I'm just going to kind of go over this biography. I was so impressed. And Ashes is the book that we're going to be talking about today. And it's your second book of poetry. Your
yes.
first book, I love the title, Water of Joy. And that coupling there it is. Wonderful. Ashes and water. I love that. And it's also published by Finishing Line Press. Um, you live with your family in Copperas Cove.
Yeah, you got it. It takes about a year living in Copper's Cove to learn how to pronounce Copper's Cove.
Okay, Copperas Cove in Texas. And you teach college English courses, including creative writing 1, 3 genre, creative writing 2, novel writing, and literature for community college students at Central Texas College in Killeen, Texas. Is that right? Killeen,
Yeah, Colleen, yeah.
Texas. Mike studied for his Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing, Poetry in San Marcos, Texas, at Texas State. And he studied English, music, and fine arts in undergrad school at the University of Texas at Austin. Mike has also been working on his artwork, multi-talented. He works with acrylics, oil pastels, and digital. The covers of his book, Ashes. Let's see that there. Oh, it's beautiful. It's his work, Ash, drawn in digital stylus. It's lovely, lovely. After his classes are over and he's not busy revising or painting, Mike Matthews goes for walks to the pond in the park to practice listening for the whispers that manifest the moments of poetry and art. I love that. I had to quote that directly.
Thank you.
So that's really wonderful. What first brought you to the world of poetry that made you decide that moment that I have to be a poet? I can't live without being a poet.
That's a great question. There are several moments. I got bit by the bug to pursue understanding writing early when I was about 14 or 15. And I started reading Kurt Vonnegut novels. And I loved how the words worked, how they had substance, how the novels were working. I really wanted to learn how to write novels. And during undergrad school, I began as a fine arts major and did performance installation classes and made some strange sculptures and put them on the campus. And then I had a writing class called Thinking and Writing with a professor named Ernest Kolbach. And I changed my major to English after that because I really wanted to pursue understanding writing. And what I wrote, I attempted narratives, but I didn't do very well. I was more looking into the language and the words and how the words have substance and the lines. And after undergrad school, I went to Africa in the Peace Corps and really wanted to teach. So I still had all of this there. I wanted to write and teach, and I continue to write. I've always written in journals and everything like this. And when I got back to the States, I pursued my MFA program, which I wanted to learn to write narratives, but the material I had was poetry. I had poetry to apply. So I applied for the poetry program, and then I discovered that I do think like a poet. My work is like the poets that I studied, or I try to be. And when I talked with the other students who wrote narratives and novels, I figured out that my work is mostly the work of a person who thinks like a poet. And so I pursued that. I studied poets throughout the MFA program, their theories, their ideas. I got insights from reading people like, just a myriad of all the deep poets, T.S. Eliot and Lee Young Lee and Wallace Stevens and Elizabeth Bishop, and just really found over years and years and years, found a sort of, I guess, familiarity with what they're doing, and just learned from studying them and reading them, and just a whole list of poets, and gradually built to understanding how to put books together, and then worked on one manuscript for many years. And as a result of working on that manuscript, I learned to put these two together, Water of Joy and Ashes. And I guess that is that answering your question?
Yes, yes. And that's going to segue into another question that I'm going to have for you maybe a little bit later on. But let's see, what was my question? Actually, I'll just go ahead and ask you now: is how do you put a book together? Do you have a seminal idea when you have a book, or do you just, how does that happen for you?
Well, it's different from what I expected. I expected to be able to put together a book of poetry in the way that I have taught and thought about how narratives are put together, like novels,
Mhm.
with beginnings, middle, end, rise in action, climax, falling action, resolution points, exposition, plot points, and so on. That's the way that I've taught and the way that I've thought about approaching short stories and novels and so on, and the structure. So I've tried to figure out how to use that understanding to apply to a book of poetry, and it doesn't always seem to fit. It's more like putting together a playlist for a show in music, or putting together a series of images that poetically take people through a series of experiences or moments and so on. And so for Water of Joy, there was a central poem that came up, title poem, Water of Joy. And that sort of had a ripple effect. There were other poems that became similar to that sentiment. And then the idea started growing basically from that poem. And then I found about 5, I guess, anchor point kind of poems. I call them core. And when I wrote the first poem, the poem that shows up on the first poem in the Water of Joy book, called Before Sunrise, that launched it. I was able to put together a table of contents, and then put things in sort of an order of association, that then once I put it together in order of association. Same thing with ashes. The same thing happened with ashes. There were five or six core poems that sort of centrified not the narrative, but the substantial experience in moments, you know, to create sort of a movement of the experience. And then the same thing that happened with Water of Joy happened with Ashes. I got the first poem that kind of set the key signature of the movement of moments. That one, Start With Nothing, happens to be a very old poem. And it just seemed to fit into this overall concept of looking for meaning in the grayness that occurs after a significant loss, you know, and all of this sort of lost significance in moments and so on like this. And so I just associated poems together with that kind of idea and then put them in an order that seemed to make the book move through moments of those experiences. You know, it's not like a narrative. It's more like a movement. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. That's interesting, and I'm hearing hints of this, but I'm curious. I'm a classically trained musician myself, and I'm curious to know what relationship you see between poetry and music.
I am also a musician. I've played guitar. I played guitar when I was much younger in the 80s and warmed up for bands in Austin on stage, and with some experimental kind of loud, kind of fun music. And I also play tenor saxophone and played with a free jazz band called Alien Time Ensemble for a long time in the 90s. And the similarities between poetry and music, and poetry and art, I believe those three are more similar to each other than poetry is to narrative, even though narratives can be very poetic and very moving. I think the, how can I say? I think poetry and music capture a moment. They capture more of a movement of sentiment and experience in moments. The narrative, first what happens, second what happens, third what happens. They don't necessarily need to be chronological to take us through that experience. They are more like focused on the moment of the experience. And I think music can have a narrative as well, especially what you said.
Right.
I think absolutely. So think of poetry as like the key signature, the key changes of the music that you play, I think. So take away the narrative, the chronological kind of aspect of the music, and leave the key signature and the chords and the overtones, and then I think you'll have a similarity between music and poetry. Does that make sense?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like that because I've always tried to figure out how they relate, you know, in my mind, so that I can be a better poet and try to instill the things that I've learned. I was a music theory major and try to instill all the things that
Music
I've learned.
theory. That's where the poetry and the music will interconnect.
Right.
So I guess in the metaphor that I'm trying to create here, let's say you take one of your scores of music, right? And then isolate one of the expressions of the chords in one of the sets of measures, right? just take that out and think about all the notes, the chords, the arpeggios, the expression of the flats or whatever. I was trained in some jazz, so we went to the flat 9, which was very interesting. So the expression of that one chord right there, right, next to the next one, just like in music theory, that would be the poetry.
Right. Right. Interesting.
Now, some books, I'm sure, of poetry, like Water of Joy, after I was thinking about it a long time, putting it together, I realized that there is a loose narrative to it, but it's not the strong kind of narrative that you would find in a novel. It's a book about seeking serenity, discovering it but not noticing it, and then letting go of that for a minute because it's not sought. And the Ashes also sort of put together like that in series of kind of moments where there are, just opportunities to connect, but they're lost. Lots of just meaningless conversations. And then I think it's the third, let me look it up. Second, it's the last stanza of the book, the last stanza of the last poem of the book, where it finally has a sense of resolution. So there is a sense to it. It's just not like first, second, third. I did anchor those poems like the beginning, middle, and end, where I felt like they could have, if people read it through, right, they could have some kind of impact. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. A resolution.
And I
Hey,
guess you can hear by my explanation that I'm kind of learning this as I go too, which is a blast.
right. It is. It is.
I don't think there's a manual,
No, there's
how do
not.
you put together a book of poetry? Well, how do you do it?
Exactly. And maybe we can move on. I'm eager to hear you read some of your poems.
Sure.
Whichever ones you want to read.
I would like to start with the the beginning poem of Ashes, called "Start with Nothing."
All right.
Okay, I got it here. Start with nothing. Turn on the lamp. Cluttered paper, one tarnished earring, wet socks, thick black leaves outside, the cold. Start in the present under a lamp. Nothing that arrives from nowhere, with the present that is memory from the future. A broken toy rubber robot with a torn arm, empty candy wrapper, untied paper clips. Resurrect some memory, my orange bike with the banana seat to see my father. I stopped at a water fountain, the only decision I could make for myself, to drink. The bike burned orange, flame orange. Start with a lamp under an empty midnight. Dig into a dream from nowhere, 2 days late. Not the dream practiced during the drive to work that breaks between words about lost moments without touching, without a touch. Start in a dream where a desk has little room for elbows. Let chores rain from the lamp's bulb and pool in intuitive falling, a late bill, midnight, wrapped around a black tree stump. Start with crumpled receipts, worn out clothes, stained glasses of empty wine under lamplight, tangled with orange memories. End with some middle between the lamp and the desk. Start from nothing, an end stacked against the wake of days.
I love that.
Oh, thank you.
I'm gonna ask you just to talk a little bit about it. I think my favorite part is let chores rain from the lamp's bulb and pull an intuitive falling, a late bill, midnight wrapped around a black tree stump. I love that. Oh, what a beautiful image.
I like the way you read that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Tell me a little bit about this poem and where its genesis lies.
This one was written, I believe, a long time ago. I can't really remember when, but I made sure to try to write every day in a journal as part of our lessons in the MFA program, where one of the program directors, Tom Grimes, told us, if you don't show up to write every day, then you miss a day of writing. So I tried it many summers, and I think that one was contemplating what I believe the whole basically the whole book turned out to be. And I found some notes on a draft here where I felt like this poem fit that I wrote when I took this to the park. You know, you read the bio. I took this draft to the park and worked on it. It was rejected once, so I took it to the park and worked on fixing it up. And I wrote some notes that I discovered yesterday on the front page. The book focuses on the missed moments, the ones that seem valuable, but were not anymore in the end. All the effort to maintain meaning and all the lack of effort to put meaning where there could have been compassion and beauty. The book's about impermanence and wasted moments when there's no awareness of their value and beauty. Ashen, grieving, lost meanings, locked in things, or never taking risks, or living dead and wondering what anything truly means during death's slow development. And when I started thinking of that, and I said, okay, well, this poem really does seem to launch this book. There's a lot of in between in when I go and study my own work, like, you know, put on my professor hat and start studying it, which I don't really try to do. I see there's a lot of just like curiosity about what all this means, this clutter, these little things. And often I find small things that capture moments of meaning, and I do a lot of my art on that too. Like you can see this caterpillar here.
Right.
The caterpillar was eating all of our tomatoes, and I tried to remove it from the tomato plant with a stick and a wire, and it fought me. And it's a moment that feels really significant to me. My family and I, we go and checked our garden and our flowers and so on. So I took a picture of this caterpillar, and I came and painted it. I gave it two tomatoes and some blue teeth because it fought me, and I took it back to a different part of the yard. So it's this meaning that's attached to things but shouldn't be attached to things, and then moments that have these meanings. It's that's kind of what I think about when I write poems like that, you know. Where do I start? I start with the lamp, you know. Does the lamp have meaning? Do the paper clips? Do I tangle them up? Do I untie them? It's really just this kind of, I guess that, I hope that makes sense, you know.
Yeah. I get it. I get it. I really like it. Okay, so we've got 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh, that went fast.
It did. Which one would you like to read next?
Well, if I only have 10, then I will, I can read Our Lives in Boxes. That one's kind of hard to read without getting a little bit emotional. I had found, or my brother had found a storage room that our father had that we didn't know about it, and I went to clean it out, and this one sort of speaks to the same thing that I've been just talking about, these things that we put meaning into that don't really hold the meaning. This one's called Our Lives in Boxes.
Mm-hmm.
The value of a moment, the achievements, ID cards with our second attempts to smile, Father's Day cards from sons, report cards from elementary schools, letters from parents, important files in case, just in case, drawings from kindergarten, cartoon strips from childhood, pictures of weddings, pictures of places, pictures, old address books with phone numbers decades old, transcripts and degrees, state flag refrigerator magnets, paper clips and old laptops, RCA and VHS recorders, all encased just in case. We need to use them. We need to remember them. We need to make ourselves from them. In case we forget who we are, what makes us happy, what we worked so long to develop. Encased in silverfish, jagged, spider-ridden boxes, passed to the sons and daughters to decide what to set free, to untangle the spirit from the files, to sever the invisible need, encased, just in case. We need to remember the work we do for our mothers, the work we do for our fathers.
I thought that one was just so beautiful. It was so beautiful, and when I read it, I could feel the emotion behind it.
Thank you.
It was so powerful. And before we go any further, we need to tell people that if they want to support you and pre-order a book of the book called Ashes, where should they? How should they do that?
Ashes is in the pre-sales period for another week until May 27th. And to pre-order Ashes, go to Finishing Line Press, the publisher. Find me in Search Products. There's a small little window called Search Products. You can type in my name, Mike Matthews, with 2 T's, or Ashes. And then there'll be 2 covers, one for Ashes and one for Water of Joy. If you type in my name, and you can click on the cover for Ashes, and there's a place you can order it there. And then it'll be released after June 22nd. After the pre-order period, I believe it'll be available sometime later in the summer, but I hope people can consider it during the pre-order period, which is ongoing until next Friday, May 27th. So that's all one word, www.finishinglinepress, and then I believe it's a .com.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly hope you meet those pre-order sales, and it's certainly a worthy book. It's beautiful writing, and from what I've read of it, I would recommend it myself, and plan to buy a copy of it myself, and And it was a joy to meet you, Mike. And
Thank you.
I loved reading the samples that I got in this poem, Our Lives in Boxes. Wow. Just wow.
If anybody has questions, can I just tell them my email address? I have
Sure.
art prints too. It's
Oh, yes.
McDavid, M-I-K David at hotmail.com. And it'll probably go to junk mail. So no E, just MIK David at hotmail.com. And people can ask me questions if they want about the books, about this strange horned toad.
It's too bad we didn't have more time.
No. I'm really grateful for any time to do this. This is really, I just so appreciate it. The thing that I'm enjoying so much is, you know, I don't mind the marketing part of trying to get the books done, but the experiences I've had as a result of these books is just beyond what it's just so amazing. And I just happen to like getting it out there, seeing where it's going. So it's a joy that you invited me here, in other words, and I really appreciate the time. It's really just so much fun.
Well, it's been a joy for me too.
That's great.
And all the tribulations that we went through to
Oh yeah. That's
get
not a
found.
problem. That's just the new world.
So, so anyway, well, this is informing me that we're done. So
Okay.